Greetings, everyone. Back again, and new series. Well, it's just continuation of my movie reviews, pretty much. Gonna be calling this Sunday Spoils, or um, which pretty much we're gonna be talking about movies, spoiling them. It's funny I held off on this, considering Avengers and Deadpool 2, but I might do a retro one on those maybe next week. But we gotta talk about Solo, Star Wars movie. If you saw my other review, it's disappointing to say the least. So that's out of the way. But yeah, it's just so pretty much the story is it's Han Solo escaping this pretty much just rundown planet. He's trying to run away with his girl. Only of course he gets out, she gets caught back in. He ends up trying to hide, and he ends up going and signing up with the Imperials and becoming a trooper in their Navy division to hopefully fly. But of course, he gets kicked out and he ends up being a grunt, just like all the others. Um, so 3 years later, he skipped to him being a mud trooper and this planet that's just, well, mud. That's what they're called, mud troopers. But pretty much in the planet, he finds these smugglers that are pretending to be troopers, and they pretty much just uh, he tries to go with them, but of course they turn him in, saying he's a deserter, and they feed him to the beast, which is a very muddy Chewbacca. His the way to introduce him is very cool. I do like it. They make it seem like it's not him. I mean, they make it seem like it's a very fierce beast, and then you see it's a muddy Chewbacca, which of course is still a pretty fierce beast, but somehow they actually say, Han knows how to speak Wookiee. And it's kind of hilarious because it's pretty much the only time we get subtitles when Chewie or anyone speaks Wookiee. So, which is interesting because then they don't use those subtitles again when Chewie's speaking, later. So they go back to pretty much how it was before, which is kind of dumb because once you introduce it, why not, keep it around? But of course, they introduce it because both Han and Chewie are speaking Wookiee, which then nobody can translate. So, in case you were wondering, I used to want to go to movies, AMC, but, and of course I am filming this actually right after I did my movie review. I'm just uploading it a couple days later because I want to give some people a chance to see the movie before I start talking about spoilers. So, yeah, that's why it's really being released on Sunday. So, Han and Chewie, they break free. Uh, Han is pretty much still trying to get back with the smugglers, and they kind of take interest in him. They take him with them for their gig because they were still in the ship that they needed for transport. And Chewbacca is pretty much the strong arm, so they pretty much pick him up just mostly for Chewbacca. And of course, a backup pilot's always good to have. So the problem with the most of the movie, I mean, it was good up until then. I think when it starts to deteriorate is during the heist. The heist is really cool. I do like the train design. It's kind of like on a monorail, but it's on both sides of the track, so it's kind of balancing itself with itself, and it takes the turns and everything. It's pretty cool. I do like it because if it turns to take the turns, it can keep the speed without having to slow down on those turns. So it makes sense, especially being in Star Wars. If you can do it, why not? But the whole premise of most of the movie that they're trying to steal or trying to get is fuel, pretty much. It's light speed fuel. It's fuel for the spaceships, and they say it could, fuel. What they're trying to get is pretty much to fuel a whole armada, more or less, and that's the main. That's the golden ring that they're trying to chase. So they do the job. Other smugglers come in. Marauders come in and they try to snatch it from them, but during the process of the job, uh, Woody Harrison, you know, love interest, she dies going up the bridge because she gets caught because everything just goes, six ways to hell, and it just, everybody starts dying off. That, of course, they gotta die just like Rogue One, they gotta die because they can't be alive for when the other movies come around, even though it's a big galaxy, you know. But so she dies on the bridge. Not really sad because you barely met her like 10 minutes before, so not much, you know, to really invest in her. Um, the pilot guy dies, which he's I forget the breed, the alien race, but he pretty much has 4 arms, and he is a little shorter than a human, but chest height. So, well, he's a pilot because, well, he has 4 arms, of course. So he could pretty much pilot 2 at once. So he gets shot. He ends up dying. Han takes over as the pilot. They, you know, in a tug of war, he ends up cutting free of the fuel, and pretty much there they got to owe this, you know, mob boss pretty much, who's working for Imperials, and that's pretty much he meets his love interest. He goes with them, you know, as insurance to make sure that they do it right. They go to get some raw fuel from the source, which is during the Kessel Run. So the Kessel Run is finally introduced. It's shown, and why it is, you know, he did it in 12 parsecs instead of 20, which parsecs, of course, is distance, not time, because it is a time issue where they have to get to a certain, you know, once they get the ore, they got to get it refined before it explodes. So that's the whole premise. I mean, that's more or less the premise. Of course, they go, they get it. You know, there's a little. They get Lando, they get the Millennium Falcon, they get a funny robot, which is L3, which is pretty much like an SJW robot. uh, I mean, I guess it's. I mean, it's a robot, so there's no gender really, but of course it is more feminine sounding, so you would assume it's a female robot. Granted, of course, it's a robot, so there's no gender, like I said. But it's pretty much like an equal rights. They want. It's pretty. She probably has like the best lines in the whole movie. Lando, you know, they're in hyperspace. Lando's like, "I'm gonna go get something. You need anything?" And she's like, "Equal rights." I was just like, "Wow." It's probably one of the first times that I think droids are brought up about trying to have, you know, rights, just like a person or, you know, any other living, you know, sentient thing. So I think that's pretty interesting. You know, we did have, of course, K2 and Rogue One, which he was sentient, but he knew he was programmed to help him out. So most of he knew his actions weren't all his own actions, you know, but he was, you know, on a very long leash to say the least. Where, you know, L3 is a lot more independent. Lando kind of has a leash, but it's like one of those invisible leashes. You know, she knows she shouldn't go that far away from him, so um, yeah, so they go, they get it. There's a funny Revolutions thing with L3. She pretty much takes off the restriction disc off some of the robots, and they start rebelling and freeing everyone. And it's just like it was pretty funny seeing the robots, but like I said, there's just something about this movie. It just didn't have. There's no impact. There's no consequences of their action because we all know Harris, you know, Han Solo, Chewbacca, they're gonna live. You know, they're gonna make it. They're gonna do what they gotta do. I think if they would have done, you know, something where, yeah, of course they failed on the first heist. This one they barely get out of there. Of course, you know, they're skimming their teeth. They fly through, you know, the Maelstrom for the Kessel Run because the Kessel Run is like a pathway through a Maelstrom. So they pretty much go through the Maelstrom instead of the safe route because they get blocked in. But there's just, I don't know, like there's just something about it. It just doesn't. There's no impact. I mean, Rogue One had some impact. I mean, granted, we all know they're gonna get the Death Star, you know, schematics and all that stuff, but we didn't. I mean, we knew that was the end game, but we really didn't know how they were gonna get there. Where here, we know what the end game is, and we know, of course, what's going to happen, and we kind of know what's going to go down, and they try to, put conflict in it, but the conflict is just not that great as Rogue One, because I think Rogue One is a pretty well made movie. It's slow to start, but it picks up and it has a really crazy climax, where this one just starts off running and kind of stumbles a little bit at the beginning. It's like it tries to start running, but it stumbles. Um, like I said, the first 20 minutes are pretty great. Han escaping and all that stuff. I wish it was more like that instead of trying to get into this, the space part. Pretty much everything on the ground is pretty good. But the space part just, I don't know, they didn't quite work for me. But yeah, so they get the material, they go, they do the Kessel Run, they try to escape. Uh, it's Harrison Ford, Han's old girlfriend, which now she's kind of. It's not really said. It kind of seems like she was sold off to the mob guy who runs this like super fancy ship. It's pretty cool. I would say it's pretty cool. Um, and it's weird. Like it's like they don't want to use the word sold or slave, even though she pretty much is sold to him. So she's kind of a slave because she can't run because they'll kill her. They'll find her and kill her. So, um, but yeah, so they make it. They get to the place. They start refining it. The Marauders are back, which apparently the Marauders are Rebel Alliance. um, they're pretty much rebels acting as Marauders to supply the new cause of the rebels, so they can overthrow the Imperials. Pretty interesting. If they weren't like they just they weren't quite Marauder is s they just seem like bounty hunter marauders, more than like rebels, they, which I guess it's different because it's early on in the rebellion. So I don't know, it's it's just interesting. Their leader, the rebel leaders, the marauder leader, she's very young. She's pretty much taken up the helm after her mother, dying trying to, for the cause. And I don't know, like when she takes off her helmet, you see her, and it's like, yeah, she's young, but it's just like, okay, like, like they just film it like it's this big giant thing, and you're just like looking like, what's the point? Like it's, I don't know, man. It, like I don't know. Like I said, I think it's just Ron Howard. He's just putting emphasis on the wrong. That's probably what it is. There's emphasis is on the wrong people, on the wrong actions, on the wrong scenes. It's just not right because he's not right for this movie. I'm sure there's other movies that he'll be perfect for, but not this one. You needed someone young. You needed someone that was a fan. I mean, I'm sure Ron Howard's a fan, but I don't know. It just doesn't feel like it. So, Harrison's pretty much on. They try to. Solo's pretty much on board with helping the rebellion. Harrison Ford is not. He goes off just running, just to try to survive. They go and hatch a plan to try to, take out this mob guy, uh, which I can't remember his Crimson Invasion, something like that, Crimson something. But yeah, so they're trying to take him out so they could, because he's pretty much like a war criminal, killing people and just taking what he wants. And okay, just, we kind of knew he was already a bad guy, so I mean, you didn't have to make him more of a bad guy. We already know he's a bad guy, and you got to take him out. So a little unnecessary, but okay. Uh, so so Lando was, of course, with him. I didn't mention L3 actually dies during the, the after they get the raw resources. She gets shot. She gets literally exploded pretty much, and only half of her survives, upper half. And she's important because she has like this great map of the galaxy, which they ended up plugging her into the ship, so she becomes part of the ship, which I think you see quite a bit behind Chewie. There's like this big round orb thing, and that usually has their map where they're going. But that's her pretty much. So, uh, so they hatch a plan. They take the refined energy, they take it up. They go to the bad guy. He doesn't believe that it's real. They show him it's like it's real. They're like, oh, we got someone that told us what you're doing. You know, ends up being Harrison Ford. He ratted him out because of course he wants to live, and he told Han, don't trust anyone because you won't get disappointed. Something like that. But they end up going to ambush the rebels because they're like, yeah, you guys gave the energy to the rebels. Of course, it's not the rebels. It's actually the indigenous people that live on the planet that are pretty much, it's pretty much Tatooine 2.0. They ambush, the guards for the mafia guy. And it's like, hey, we were a little short on some bad guys. And Harrison Ford's got the only blaster, so he takes out, well, he wants to be the guy with the only blaster in the room, so he takes out the other two guards. And he takes pretty much Chewbacca hostage, takes the energy because it's actually legit. And then there's a little showdown with the mob boss and Han Solo's ex-girlfriend, I guess you could say. And Han, of course, there's all 2-on-1. His ex-girlfriend tricks him, uh, thinking that she was gonna kill Han just to prove to stay, the good side of the mob guy. Ends up betraying the mob guy, fights him, kills him with his own weapon, which is a cool little like laser edge uh, dual knife, which he has two of, but he throws one away. Stupid. And it's good. Han goes to go cut off Woody Harrelson's character, and this is the part where I said there was a pretty decent Easter egg. So she's like, "Oh, we need stuff to, start getting on ship and survive." And she looks at the gems, and it's like, "Go ahead, I'll be right behind me." Which we all know when somebody says, "Go on ahead, I'll be right behind you." Not always good. So she ends up getting the ring off this guy who has his little logo, puts it in the machine, turns it on. It's a hologram. Who is on the other side of the hologram? Darth Maul. Which at first I was like, wait, does this take place before episode 1? But then you start noticing and you hear it. He has a mechanical legs, which he looks old. So this takes place definitely before episode 4, which is A New Hope. Pretty much towards the end of Star Wars Rebels, if you've seen that TV series, and a few years after episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, for sure. Because pretty much Maul is doing his own thing. He's not really with the Imperials. He's, you know, pretty much cast out because Darth Vader is a new apprentice. So there's always a master and always an apprentice. And it's a pretty cool scene. He grabs his double-edged lightsaber, lights it up, kind of, showing her the threat. She pretty much takes over the command seat of the mafia guy, so she becomes a new mafia person. He's like, "Come pick me up. We gotta talk." So she ends up going. Han has a showdown with Woody Harrison. Han shoots first, and kills Woody Harrison, which is just like, good one. uh, like, there's some good scenes in this movie. It's just, I don't know, like I said, this emphasis is just on the wrong spots. I think that showdown could have been done a little better just to emphasize some more parts, but it's okay, it works. She goes off, they still have to refine fuel, Harrison's dead. Pretty much the end of the movie, they give the fuel to the rebels. They're like, well, you just fed us hope. He's like, we could use people like you. He's like, Nah, not a good guy. He just wants to be free. So that's that. Um, Han actually tracks down Lando in this like jungle planet, and I forgot to mention before when they got Lando, they were playing cards. Uh, Sabah, I believe it was Sabah, something like that. Pretty much, it's like Texas Hold'em in a way. It's poker, pretty much. Uh, and he loses because Lando cheats at the beginning, but they ended up hiring on Lando and giving him a cut because they were trying to make him bet his ship and get it. But Lando cheated. This time Han at the end catches that he's cheating, steals the card from his little slot on his wrist, and beats him for the Millennium Falcon, which is a cool little scene. I think those scenes are pretty good. Um, I wish there was just more. Like it needed to be like 3 hours or something. Like it needed a lot more just so it could breathe. It just needed something, man. This thing was just so disappointing. I don't know. I guess they couldn't really. I felt like they really couldn't do any better than what they did, which is sad for sure. But I mean, it's still gonna make money. It's just not gonna make a butt ton of money, which it could have made a butt ton of money. But it's gonna do decent. It's gonna do alright. Supposedly, from what I was reading, it's supposed to be like one of the most expensive Star Wars movies. Which, yeah, they're not gonna make a lot of profit. It's gonna be all merchandising pretty much. But it's alright. It was alright. I don't regret seeing it. I just was disappointed. Um, like I said, there's no end credits, no mid credits, no special thing once those credits hit, so you can leave. But yeah, there's good scenes in this movie. It's just the rest of it is very disappointing. Like I said during my first review, it's one of my bottom Star Wars movies for sure. It's not the best, but it's not the worst. I would say for sure. Uh, but yeah, man, it's pretty close to the bottom. It's probably second to the bottom, but I don't know what they're gonna do in 2 years, because 2 years next year they're doing episode 9, and then I would assume the next year they would have another Star Wars story, but I don't think they've talked too much about what it might be. So it'd be interesting to see. Maybe they're gonna do like a Leia story or something. Um, I mean, they could continue another solo story because they do mention Jabba the Hutt. Granted, they don't say Jabba the Hutt. They just say there's this guy that's setting up a big, Woody Harrelson's telling Han, I keep on Woody Harrison, even though it's not his name, because I forgot his character's name. But he's pretty much telling Han that there's this big, once you're done with this, come down Tatooine. There's this big score. There's, other mob guy that's, setting up this thing that pretty much will be my final score. And he doesn't say Jabba the Hutt, but it's Jabba the Hutt. But yeah, so they continue with that, interactions with Solo and Jabba. I think that would be pretty cool if they do another Solo movie, but I think the way that this one's going to perform, I don't think it's going to perform very well. And it's a bit sad. I know there's a lot of people saying we're just getting too many Star Wars movies. Honestly, a Star Wars movie a year, I have no problem with that. Granted, of course, if they're good. Which this one is good, but it's barely skimming that good. It definitely is not great like how people expect Star Wars movies to be. So that's that. Um, it's not really much to like. There's not a lot to this movie. It's just pretty straightforward. Besides Darth Maul, there's really nothing else that's Easter eggy to it. I mean, they show on how Woody Harrelson's character is you know, this gunslinger, you know, spinning, whipping around his blasters, and Han's like, teach me that. He's like, I teach you to follow my lessons first. uh, but yeah, it's alright. Visually, it's really cool. I do like the scenarios, the scenes, and everything. You know, it feels like an original, like it took place between, you know, where it's supposed to. It doesn't feel too new and fancy, but also it feels, you know, down and gritty. You know, you get to see what life was like during Imperial reign on other planets. So that's pretty cool. But I don't know, it's alright. It's okay. If I had to rate it, I would give it a 6 out of 10. You know, just above okay, good status. You know, it's better than just slightly better than average. You know, average being, of course, 5, but it's like a 6. It's it's alright. It's not that great. um, but yeah, so that's all I wanted to talk about. Went by pretty long. Pretty much broke down the whole movie for you guys because, like I said in my other review, it's okay if you miss watching this in the theater. You're not gonna miss a lot. I guess. I mean, there's not really much happens that you didn't already know. I mean, there's characters that are introduced and stuff, but then they're killed off. So what's the point? Except for one, you know, the Hans X. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens with the Star Wars story movies. If they're not just gonna keep doing episodes every year, or they're gonna keep doing episodes every other year, they're probably gonna fill in something for those other years. So we'll see. Maybe, hopefully, they'll start doing some Old Republic stories. That'd be pretty awesome. I think a lot of people are interested to see what happened in the Old Republic. But until next time, guys. Later.